Welcome back to Unmasking the Trans Movement with John Mueller. I'm your host, Brad Wilder. Let's bring in John and Dan right now. Guys, thank you very much for being here.
Brad, I appreciate it, and I am excited that Dan Kleinman is willing to be back with us. We could say he is the man most feared by the American Library Association. Dan is the man as far as the one who has been lighting a fire and trying to keep lighting a fire under the feet of the American Library Association. He has had his finger on the pulse and has been pushing back against the ways in which libraries, under the guise of the American Library Association, have been putting in very detrimental material into schools. So Dan, thank you for being back, and we are thrilled to be able to help you announce the launch of your new organization, the World Library Association. So welcome back, and we're eager to have you describe what this new association is all about.
Thank you.
Let's start by, I can't help myself, let's start by having you describe what are people looking at behind you. You have a green screen that talks about radical librarians. So this will give people the ability to kind of do a little research into you, because you have been relentless, you have been fearless, you have been a protector of decency and normal values, and you made headlines.
Right. Over here I am in the story, and here is the new leader of the American Library Association. We're right next to each other. And it says, brought to book in the picture, because I'm bringing her to book. This is in the New York Post on September 11th, 2022, by Dana Kennedy. There's Dana's name over here. And it's all about the radical librarians and what they're doing with the American Library Association, and have been for decades. So that's why I'm in that story, and that story brought me a lot of attention. And so therefore, a lot of people came to my attention, and some of them said, we got to get out of this American Library Association, but because of the things that they tell us to do and push on us, but there's no alternative. Where can we go? There's the state library associations are just like mini ALA, American Library Associations. So I heard enough complaints about this from people that I said, well, what the heck, I'll create my own library association. And I did. And it's already started. I have quite a few people who have shown interest. I have quite a few people on the team. I have somebody, a library director, who just called me today about joining the organization, because what the New World Library Association is going to do is going to provide people with a common sense alternative to the American Library Association, where we will follow common sense, community standards, and the law, which will be the way things might have used to have been done, but not lately. And they've kind of lost the script, and they've made an opening for organizations to be created like mine. So here I am with World Library Association. I'm going to try to make people aware of the situation in libraries and how they can improve it. I'm putting together a team of people to help make all this happen and improve things. And I need to get a whole pile of funding together in order to counteract what the American Library Association is currently doing to continue to harm as many communities and people as possible. For example, they've gotten millions of dollars from Jay-Z, the rapper, and from Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, and from other sources, and millions from places like Mellon Foundation. And they have specifically said they're going to use this money to sue more parents, train more lawyers how to sue parents. Any parent who complains about books in schools is going to get sued, is their plan. They're already doing it. I'm involved in one of these cases right now. So I know what I'm talking about, and I've been doing this for almost 24 years. And so there's nobody on the other side of this organization that's stopping this from happening or even questioning it. The American Library Association is getting millions together to push inappropriate material on children. And it affects children worldwide, essentially, because their policies are that influencing around the world in many libraries, like Canada, for example, where the Office for Intellectual Freedom from the American Library Association will meet with members of the Canadian Library Association or whatever and describe to them why our American policies in libraries should apply to Canadian libraries. And what do you know? Suddenly the Canadian libraries are doing the same thing the American libraries are doing.
So do you think a grassroots movement with regards to these books and getting them into our schools on the shelves in the right place, you always have kind of been, I guess, advocating that it starts at the top with the American Library Association, and then it would obviously be the Canadian Library Association here in Canada as well. So while you're starting there, wouldn't it be better to kind of find some like-minded trustees and school board officials and teachers who maybe help the fight and kind of keep the push and momentum from just a local, regional kind of a level and effort versus going all the way to the top? The more people we gather, I'm thinking, would be, rather than just me approaching the Canadian Library Association myself, I bring all these people with me after I've rounded them up, right, and got them ready to come with me.
Right. People are hearing about, look, we're only 2 weeks old. They're hearing about World Library Association, and they're beginning to join. I'm getting calls from state library commissioners, from library directors, from library trustees, from librarians. Everybody is interested in finding out what's going on and how they can get on board this, because they all know this is the problem. So instead of reaching out to individuals, we're going to do this as a team effort now. People are going to come into this team. It's going to provide an alternative to the other team, and it's going to grow. Because why is it going to grow? Because I think it's going to be very popular, because it's going to really improve libraries for everybody, not only people in the communities, but also the people who work in the libraries. For example, librarians themselves suffer a number of problems related to working in a public building. But one of them is that some of them can be laid directly at the feet of American Library Association policy, such as it's recommending that libraries have unfiltered access on the internet. Well, the unfiltered access invites in the crowd who does the inappropriate stuff, shall we say, to keep this clean so YouTube doesn't remove it. And then the librarians have to deal with the men who then begin to harass them as a result of what they've just viewed on the computers. Everybody works in jobs, right? But librarians also work in jobs where they have hostile work environments created by men viewing things on computers in the libraries. That's a policy of the American Library Association, right? A World Library Association is not going to recommend that kind of a policy. We're going to recommend that we look after the health and welfare of our librarians who work for us, or who work for public, they don't work for us, right? They're going to work in their libraries. But can you imagine now librarians suddenly following our policies are being sexually harassed at a much lower rate because of our policies? I'm suggesting that those librarians are going to say, hey, look, this World Library Association's got it going. I highly recommend it for your library. It's making my life a lot easier. So that's why I think we're going to grow. Instead of starting with individuals and doing things, we're going to grow as a group. The word is going to spread, and we're going to grow that way. Again?
Are you looking for somebody to lead the way here in Canada?
Well, we are the World Library Association.
That's right. That's right. So to get this implemented, you'd almost want somebody from every country then. Is that fair to say? I'm just trying to find the person that you're looking for. What kind of people are you looking for? We talk about, you wanting to bring people. Well, what kind of people are they?
Okay, the people I'm looking for are the people who say, I'd like to stop what's happening in my library, but there's no alternative. I can't, my librarians need training, but I can't send them anywhere other than the American Library Association or the Wyoming or the whatever library, the state library associations. There's no alternative. I have nowhere to go. Those are the people that we're looking to help. We'll be able to provide that training eventually. Right now, we already do provide one service. We provide reconsideration policies. That was recently a concern, for example, in Missouri, where the Jay Ashcroft, who's the Secretary of State, I believe, they just passed a law, and the law requires libraries to have a reconsideration form, and the librarians are complaining that, well, that's going to be a burden on the libraries. No, it's not. They can point to a website on the World Library Association, use our reconsideration form. We will then bring that to the library for their consideration, and then we will post the results on the World Library Association so everybody can see what's being challenged and what's being successfully removed and what's not being successfully removed. Everybody's going to benefit from this kind of thing instead of just leaving it up to the local communities following existing policies. I could show you an example of our.
Okay, before you do, let me jump in. And I'm sorry, I had my mic muted. Maybe it's a good thing I did. Okay, I want to help draw in the audience with this one issue, because we're also going to talk about some of the trans books, these deviant books. But you highlighted something that should get everyone behind you and your organization. Along with being a therapist, along with doing Unmasking the Trans Movement, and Brad and I are trying our best to get the word out, along with Dr. Ann Gillies, I'm a sex offender treatment provider. I've been working with sex offenders for 15 years now, both in prison and now as a local provider. I want people to understand what you said when it has to do with quote unquote inappropriate material. I want parents to understand this, that right now, a deviant man who is porn saturated can walk into a library and pull up pornography, go on to porn sites. How do I know? Because I've had a number of guys that were failed out or arrested in sex offender treatment for doing just that. I've had men in my sex offender treatment groups that were arrested because they were on the registry. They were being supervised, but they thought they would be slick. They go into a library, position themselves in such a way where the screen is then accessible. What they're looking at can be accessed by kids, or they leave it up. So deviant men, predators, are going into libraries and grooming kids, and parents can't do anything about it because the librarians can't do anything about it, because the American Library Association says you can't block that. So right now, predators, because of the American Library Association, predators, sexual perpetrators, sexually violent predators can go into libraries, pull up porn, and have that accessible to kids. And because of the American Library Association is providing cover to sexual predators, and therefore the World Library Association now, Dan, under your leadership, can put an end to that.
I can. And it's more than just putting filters on computers, right? The American Library Association recommends that the libraries destroy all the internet history things. You know, when you go on the internet, you look at a website, it keeps a history. They recommend you destroy those histories precisely to protect these people from being arrested. They even make jokes about it because they think it's so funny. It might even violate locals' records retention laws. Now, I get that there's an important part of privacy when you go to a library. That's fine, and those histories should be protected from public disclosure. The problem is they shouldn't be deleted. They should be maintained under the city's records retention policies and only released upon the a proper subpoena request from a judge to release the records, because the police are doing an investigation. I have heard from police. They have said a huge number of investigations of child porn crimes end in public libraries for this very reason. So another thing World Library Association is going to do is going to stop telling libraries to delete their internet histories. You know, keep people from seeing them, but save them for as long as required by their local record retentions, and then delete them and make them available if a proper subpoena comes in for that records. So we can start getting these criminals in the different ways, not only have the filters, but being able to look at what they actually viewed at later.
There you go. So again, this in and of itself should be enough to get people fired up to go right on to your website that you're going to show us in a moment. But I want to add an additional piece. With the film that has just come out, Sound of Freedom, about child trafficking, I want people to understand that as a sex offender treatment provider, I've had men in my group that have worked with other perpetrators where they go into a library. Who frequents a library? Usually, oftentimes, kids that come from disadvantaged homes, disadvantaged situations. So they're in libraries because it's supposedly safe. These perps go in and they can start grooming these kids. They can spot these kids that are needy and vulnerable. And therefore, they can also take photos of these kids. They can prime the computer for the next perp. There can be child trafficking that's happening by virtue of a library that people need to understand. Parents need to understand that right now, libraries are a haven for sexual predators. But your organization now, the World Library Association, is going to really make libraries safe. Right now, the American Library Association has become predator friendly. And that's why people, if nothing else, should get behind your organization. Everything from the civic level, that the government leadership, as far as on the local level, should get behind this. I'm very appreciative, Dan, for the safety and the welfare of kids, that you've been willing to take the step of launching the World Library Association. So let's start. Show us the website. How can people get a hold of you, and how do we start supporting you?
All right. While I'm showing it to you, I'm going to tell you that another thing the American Library Association has done is to award a library that had been covering up child pornography crimes for 2.5 years until they finally admitted it. Got them an award for intellectual freedom. So they view this as intellectual freedom. That is the American Library Association. That will not be World Library Association.
So this library knew, and they took active steps to cover up perps going on and accessing child porn.
Yes, and the active steps included American Library Association's top leadership personally showing up in the libraries and giving speeches about how the library was right to protect the people's, the child porn criminals' privacy and so on and so forth, right? They basically use the First Amendment against you, right? There's no protection for child porn crime, but they claim, well, it's not child porn because only a judge can determine that, so we don't know what it is yet, so we're going to defend it. Whatever. This is World Library Association. Okay, we're brand new. We serve public libraries and school libraries.
And the site is worldlibraryassociation.org.
.org. Here's one of the services that we have right now, because we're pretty new, but right now we have a service that we can provide right now. We could talk about the reconsideration form. All right, let's say that there's a book like Genderqueer in your public library and you want it removed because you think it's inappropriate. You can use, libraries will allow you to fill out forms that enable you to do this. Those forms, however, make it very hard for you to do this without kind of leading with the chin, because they ask you inappropriate questions that are irrelevant, like, well, what do you think would be a better book? You know, it's irrelevant to whether a library should review something. It's just there to get parents to embarrass themselves. And then the librarians talk about it in their private Facebook groups and mock the parents. That's what it's there for. So our form is going to be a lot more simple. And the first thing we're going to do, because we do take this seriously, is that you have to be a constituent of the governmental unit in which you're filing your request. You just can't be from Wisconsin and filing in California, for example, because nobody wants that. So if you just say, no, I'm just a concerned citizen, then thanks, but we're not going to We're not going to help you out. Okay. We also protect your name and email address. But if you are a person who's filing, you are a constituent, we will ask you some questions. What about your library? What's the name of it? Where is it located? Because we have to file a request with a library, right? We can't just file it anywhere. So we need to know that specific information. So it's going to be library so-and-so library, and it's going to be in anywhere, Wisconsin, whatever, and maybe here's a website for it, whatever. Okay, now it asks, what do you want to be done? You want it to be removed from the library or moved to another section of the library? So let's say I want it to be removed. I want to get genderqueer removed. So we tell you to enter the name of the material, its author, its producer, the year of the publication, its format, specific version, or any other material that we can identify the work to be reconsideration. For reconsideration of the location, tell us where it's currently located. One work at a time. All right, we're not going to take multiple requests. It's going to be one work at a time here. Note, removals, look at this. Removals from public libraries are rarely granted. We let people know right up front that if you're trying to get something removed from a public library, it's going to be rarely granted. Right? This is not going to be a means of harassing libraries. We want libraries to do their business, and we want it to do it well. So we want to make it clear that anything removed from a public library is rarely granted. Removals from school libraries are usually based on being educationally unsuitable or pervasively vulgar, but not for the ideas the books may contain. So now we're telling people who are complaining about schools that you can get it removed for being educationally unsuitable or pervasively vulgar, words from a U.S. Supreme Court case, right? But you're not going to get it removed if you just don't like the ideas in the book. So we're warning them ahead of time that they should consider this while they're filing, all right? So genderqueer, for example, is likely not going to be removed from a public library. Genderqueer might be removed from a school library if it's being removed for being educationally unsuitable or pervasively vulgar. If it's being removed because you don't like the ideas it contains, it's not going to get removed. It has to be educationally unsuitable or pervasively vulgar. So we tell people right off the bat. So we're going to say, I don't know, genderqueer. Genderqueer, whatever. And then we have some comments. We allow people to put in some optional comments. Is there anything else you want to tell us? Upload some files if they want. They click send. And that gets submitted to World Library Association. We will then submit that to the library that they gave us. And in 6 weeks or so, does it say this here? That will take about 6 weeks? Because it depends on how much time it takes for the library to actually really consider this, right? It's not being considered by World Library Association. We're just kind of a go-between to help make the connection. But the library itself is going to decide if the work is inappropriate. And if it is inappropriate or not, we will be creating a database right here on our website of what's been filed, where, and what the result has been. Right? Seeing a database of what's been filed where and what the result has been is going to help to inform people about the issue and maybe even to stop needless requests, right? I don't want to bother libraries. I want to help them. So if somebody's requested that genderqueer be reviewed in a public library and they want to get it reviewed in the same public library, a week later, well, that's going to be kind of a waste of everybody's time because it's currently being reviewed, right? So we're going to make this available. We're going to put some kind of a time requirement on here so that maybe once every year you can't review the same work more than once a year or something like that, because that, so we want this.
Dan, I can see how valuable that would be, because if I am a local public official and I've been told that we don't have these kind of materials in our public libraries or our schools. Now, I, as a public official, have record real time I can pull this up and see what kind of materials are in our library. So Pierre Barnes has done a wonderful job, especially in Canada, being able to help parents know real time what books are on their shelves. This is another means that people can go onto your site, the World Library Association, and find out, okay, what's in our libraries based upon the complaints. I now can see what are on the shelves.
Yeah. Look, we just started 2 weeks ago, but this is what it's going to be building up into, and it's going to become a very useful tool, frankly. And it makes things easier, not only for the parents who now have their privacy protected so the librarians won't laugh at them, but also for the libraries that are having trouble putting together these forms, following the American Library Association recommendation. You don't even have to have a webpage for this anymore. You can just say any material reconsideration should be done here, and then just give this URL that's up here, worldlibraryassociation.org/reconsideration. That could make it easy on the libraries, easy on the parents, easy on the librarians. I don't know why the other library association doesn't do it, but I don't think they want to make it easy. Their point is to make it hard so that these books don't get considered and removed. I think that's
Dan, I'm aware of the time. Would you be willing to stay with us for a second part of our episode?
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to.
Because we've just gotten into your website. We're going to allow you to continue to show us what's on this in anticipation. So we'll give a little teaser. What are parents going to learn kind of in part 2? And again, you are looking for, and Brad was great to bring it up, people in different countries that can connect with your organization, can become a point person worldwide. So how can they get a hold of you?
Well, that would be on our About page. Let's hope. In case it would be on our Talk to Us page. Get in touch. It's a Contact Us page, and now it has an email address, a phone number, a street address, and other ways to follow us down here. Oh, you can write in the form right here. Give me your name, your phone number if you like, and an email, and whatever message. You can send it right here.
And you just passed by a portion of the website that shows who's involved. You want to review some of the individuals that are with you, that are helping you, that make this up?
Or you can wait for the second hour. It's up to you. Okay.
Perfect. Then we'll do that. Although, give a primer or just a quick overview.
All right. We have a number of people who make up, other than myself, Sean McBrarity, who has a lot of experience in these kinds of issues that we're facing and has faced them in Maine school libraries. Kevin Dujan, who is the author of this book, Shut Up, The Bizarre War That One Public Library Waged Against the First Amendment. And this was a library that the ALA defended with the child pornography that they gave an Intellectual Freedom Award to. We have some boards of trustees members from a variety of libraries around the United States, Texas, New York, Wyoming, and Missouri. And that's what's going on. So we are a bunch of people who are willing to do something about public libraries and how to improve them.
So in just a couple of weeks, you've had quite a transition here from yourself taking this and creating this to having 6-8 people already signed up. And obviously that's just in the U.S., but now...
And the media's already writing about us, too.
Yeah, so here we are. It's going to expand to the rest of the world now, and you're going to find that a lot of people are going to join this organization to really ramp you up in the right place and take you where you need to be. This is great. This is great.
Well, Dan, let's plan on having you stay with us. We will get into, again, what your new organization is all about. You're going to continue to help us walk through the website. But again, I want to reemphasize that though we have huge concerns, the nature of our program is unmasking the trans movement. The reason we're so concerned about the trans movement is to protect women and children. We're not
I'll get
against
to that.
anything. We are for the protection of women and children. And what has been going on in libraries is not just the trans stuff, but the primary concern is inappropriate material. That's a euphemism for saying pornographic material, and predators have been given safe haven in libraries. Perpetrators, and I can attest to the fact that men in sex offender treatment are in there for having done this exact same thing or violated parole. They use libraries as a means of communicating with one another, as a means of just going in there and literally getting off on the computer, but they position themselves in such a way that kids can see this. It's part of the grooming effort, and the American Library Association has run defense for this degree of crime and predation. And the World Library Association, your organization that's just been launched, will help libraries become safe.
Yes.
Brad, we're looking forward to the second part of this.
Thank you much to both of you. We covered a lot in this one, and there's still more to come. Stay right there. This is Unmasking the Trans Movement. Remember, you can find us online at our website at unmaskingthetransmovement.com, where you can donate and help keep us on the air and broadcasting and making sure that the information that parents and grandparents need to get through this evil ideology continues. You can also find us on BitChute under bitchute.com/unmasking the trans movement. I'm Brad Wilder. Till next time, on behalf of John Euler and Dan Kleinman, we'll see you next time. And remember, it's not our kids' fight, it's our fight.